Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another Doodles podcast. Just me today, and I'm going to be talking about. It's been about a year now since I've lived full time on the dark side, and I want to give you a feeling of what that's been like. Has it been what I expected? Has it been better or worse? And some of the costs associated with that. So I'm going to go over all that with you today. So I bought this boat in January of 2021, and here it is, February 2022. So it's been a good. It was on dry dock for 4 months over hurricane season, so I was on the boat most of that time. As far as my general impressions so far, I've loved it. Oh, by the way, cheers, guys! It's a twist off. Well, it's not twist off, but it's not a pop top, so you can't hear it. But there you go. But anyway, it's been a lot more comfortable than I thought. I got to say, I've said it a million times. A motor yacht is a house that is a boat, or a boat. It's more house than it is boat, whereas a sailboat is more boat than it is house. So, a sailboat is a boat that happens to be a house. A motorboat is a house that happens to be a boat. So it has been really comfortable. The things I like about it so far have been that. Let me get rid of that. Have been that. You have your outdoor living spaces, and you have your outdoor where you can see your neighbors and all that, but you can also come downstairs inside, and it feels like an apartment. I mean, I have a full-size refrigerator. I don't know if this camera will pick it up. Yeah, so I have a full-size refrigerator there. I have an ice maker outside. I have, a hot water heater, a household hot water heater. I have a bathtub if I really wanted to take a bath, all these things. So it makes it really comfortable. And then from a galley standpoint, it's got everything you would need. Convection oven. We use mostly just like a little toaster type oven, but then we have 110 volt power all the time. So it is really comfortable. And then of course the aft cabin is huge, right? It's got a big queen size bed. I got a bathtub back there with a walk-in shower and all that. You'd be hard pressed to get that on a sailboat, especially anything under like 50 feet. Once you get above that, you can get some pretty big bedrooms. Like my old sailboat, the CT56, had a pretty nice sized bedroom. It was pretty comfortable. I did like that one. But anything 45 feet or under is not going to have a bedroom like that. So you have multiple living areas. I have a living area down here. I can go back to my bedroom if I want. I have an outdoor salon. Then I have the helm station. Then you got the bow. Then I got the aft cockpit. There's so many places you can hang out if you want to have. I've always got a fairly large crew. We've got 4 people on here so far, and if I want to get some personal space, it's not a big problem to get away. So that being said, it's not as good for entertaining. We had kind of a party over here the other night, and don't get me wrong, we had like 15, 20 people over here, but you can't fit everybody in the salon. You got the outdoor area, so there's kind of multiple areas for hanging out. Now, you're not going to get that on a sailboat either, really, unless you get a catamaran. But that's the thing, is you get like a 45-foot catamaran, you can have everybody hanging out kind of in the outdoor salon and the galley area and all that, and it is quite nice for entertaining, I will say. So a catamaran definitely is great for entertaining. So far, kind of the biggest so I'll keep on going with the benefits first. I mean, the getting the speed, right? We're going fast everywhere we're going. We're going 10, 11 knots, no problem, every time we go somewhere. And it really... This boat has stabilizers on it, so we've been in some rough weather, and it would be easily as rough in a sailboat too. If this boat didn't have stabilizers, that'd be a different story. But it does have stabilizers, and the thing is like we're doing, and we were in some pretty rough weather a couple weeks ago, like 8-foot seas. Occasionally, a big 10-footer would come through, and instead of wallowing around at like 6, 7 knots, we're like, screw it, let's just go. And we were doing 13, 14 knots, so we're going double the speed we'd normally be going, and that way we get to where we're going, we're in that weather half the time. Obviously, the downside of that is you use a lot of fuel. Okay, we'll kind of get to some of the negatives now. Fuel, easily number one. It is definitely more expensive than I had really imagined as far as fuel. It depends on how fast you're going, how far you're going. But I mean, like, we have a trip coming up in a couple weeks. We're going to Dominican Republic. So from where we are now to Dominican Republic is 300 miles. And so at 10 knots, which is one of our more economical fuel fuel speeds. We'll probably be doing 18. Let's just call it 17, but call it 20 gallons an hour just for math's sake. And it's going to take us 30 hours, right? So we're going to burn 600 gallons getting to the Dominican Republic times 4, and you're $2,400 to do that trip. So it's pretty expensive. Now then, that being said, you don't do that very often. Like our longest trip previous to this one coming up has been like 80 miles or 100 miles. So, maybe a third of that cost or less. And if you're only doing that every month or something, that's not that bad, right? So you're spending, $700 or $800 a month in fuel, maybe $1,000 a month in fuel moving around. But that's not all of the fuel. The problem is, because kind of when I was thinking about it, I was like, we're not going to go more than 100 miles in a month. We're just going to island hop, right? Go 10 miles over to this island, hang out for a week. Go 20 miles over here to this island, hang out for a week, right? And by the time you get there, you're doing less than 100 miles. Well, that has been right on, right? We've been using less than $1,000 a month, burning fuel, moving around. But the problem is that this boat was designed to have a generator run the entire time, which is, that doesn't sound too bad until you add up the fuel burn on that. So I have 2 generators on this boat. I have a 20 kilowatt, which lives in the main engine bay, and it's quite loud, so we don't run it too often. And then I have an aft generator under the aft cockpit area. And it's a 12 and a half kilowatt. So it doesn't use as much fuel, and it's a lot quieter back there. You can't even really hear it in this salon area when it's running. In the aft cabin, when you're sleeping, yes, you can hear it, but it's not too bad. It's a white noise, helps you get to sleep, right? You hear less of the waves slap. But even at a gallon an hour on that thing, so you do the math on that, 24 hours a day time. So we're using 24 gallons of fuel a day, so that's $100 a day just in fuel for the generator. So if we spend a month somewhere cruising around and at anchors without being in a marina, you get $1,000 for fuel on just moving around, and then $3,000 a month basically for the generators, right? So that's $4,000 a month in fuel. And I think for a lot of people cruising, that's their total cruising budget, right? So here's what you could do to this boat, which would cost a bit of money, but I think in the long run will definitely be worth it. If I'm having a catamaran built right now. It won't be ready until next year, 2023 summer or spring, not sure yet. But I would love to be able to keep this boat, but I think I'm going to have to sell the boat to pay for that. But if I was keeping the boat, what I would absolutely do to this boat, and I looked into doing it before, the guy I had give me a quote on it, moved away suddenly from Puerto Rico where I was going to have him do it, but I was going to have him add solar panels and a house battery bank. So the way these older, this is 1997 Hatteras, right? So it was designed to always have a generator running or be hooked up to shore power. So there was no real house bank. It has 3 battery banks. It has 1 battery bank for each engine, and those are both. It has 2 8D 12-volt batteries run in series, so it's 24 volts. Something, I think each battery is like 200 amp hours or something like that. So I got 400 amp hours per bank, so there's 800 amp hours there. And then I've got another battery bank for the navigation equipment. It's just one 4D batteries, 140 amp hours, 12 volt. Well, though those are just for the engines and for the DC powered lights and stuff like that. But almost every light in here and all the refrigeration, the air conditioners, everything in here is AC powered. So you have to have a generator running or shore power. There is no inverter system set up on this boat to run through the plugs and everything or for the refrigeration. So not only would I have to add solar panels, which is not that expensive these days. You can get them for well less than $1 a watt. So, if I wanted to add 2,000 watts of solar, which I could put on my top deck, is $2,000 or less, then you have to have somebody install it, or we can install it ourselves. I mean, I've looked into doing that too, and then wire it. That's not that complicated. The complicated part is that we have to create a new battery bank, and we have to put an inverter charger in it big enough to power the boat, and we have to put the solar charger in there to power the house bank. Now, the 2 main problems of that is, where do I put all that? This boat was not designed for that. So space-wise and weight-wise, I think it would have to be a lithium battery bank, because I would need at least 1,000 amp hours or the equivalent of that. I'm not sure. I'm not totally up to date on lithium stuff. So I would have to install that, and then where to put it. I could put it on top. I'd have to build a platform and put it on top of my existing battery banks for the engines, which, okay, that adds a lot of weight to the port side of the boat. I've already got kind of a port-heavy boat because I have 2 water tanks on the port side. So I add another, 1,000 amp hours of lithium batteries. I'm ballparking here. I don't know how much they weigh, but 400 or 500 pounds, something like that. Now I'm adding another 400 or 500 pounds on the port side of the boat. I would love to be able to put it in the center of the boat, but I don't know where I could do that. Maybe in between the engines, and I'd have to raise the flooring up a little bit to go over, put the battery bank down at the bottom, and then put a little of the floor on top, and that just limits the amount of space. And then I got to find a place for the solar charger to live. A 2,000 watt solar charger is not that big, but I could find a place for that. But then I would need at least a 5,000 watt inverter charger that would charge those batteries, and from shore power and such, or the generator, or power inverter AC power to the rest of the boat. So all that would have to be installed. You'd have to build all the housings for it and everything. Ballpark, I'm guessing that would be $15,000 to $20,000 to do all that. Now, being Sailing Doodles, it's great. I could probably get a sponsor to do quite a bit of that, but it would still be $7,000 or $10,000 for me to do that probably. And then it's the downtime of having it done. Right now, with the chip shortage and all that stuff, it's hard to get work done. The manufacturing part of it is easy. People down here in St. Thomas and all that, you can get the little cradles and everything built. It's getting the batteries, getting the solar panels and all that down here, which would be difficult. So it's kind of hard to do. But now then, if all that was done, I had proper solar that could run my refrigeration and run my lighting and all that, then you take away that $3,000 a month that I'm spending on generator, or maybe just knock it down to like a quarter of that. If I just want to run my generator at night, there's no power, there's no sun going, so you want to run it at night, or just to run the air conditioners at night when you're trying to sleep. So going from $4,000 a month to $2,000 a month in fuel is a lot more feasible but if in the long run, you're saving $2,000 a month over a period of 6-8 months. Having that solar installed would be worth it for sure. Just right now, I would love to do it. It's just finding the downtime to do it. Plus, like I say, I'll be probably selling this boat at the end of the year to pay for the new catamaran. That new catamaran, by the way, will be a kind of a hybrid electric. It's going to have one really big generator, lots of solar, and then the 2 engines on it will be electric. So, it'll be kind of like the whole diesel electric system that like trains do, right? They're very efficient at that. So they have a power generation, and then it turns the electric motors. So that'll be nice. And then, especially during the daytime, if I'm going to have 2,000 watts of solar on that thing, shouldn't need to run a generator at all. And then if you got a big lithium ion 48 volt battery system, you can charge it during the day and still use it at night. It'll be a pretty efficient way to go, so I'm looking forward to that. Kind of the thing I'm not looking forward to a catamaran. This is what I love about this motor yacht is, whenever I've got friends that have catamarans here we're in a marina here in St. Martin right now, and every time I walk by their boat, they're in their salon hanging out watching TV or working or something like that. Every time I walk by, I see them. They see me and you wave or whatever. And it's nice. We're friendly and all that. But sometimes you just want to not have to interact or socialize, right? And so, but if you're hanging out where everybody can see you, it's just an excuse for somebody to stop by and talk to you and all that. So I think you give up a little bit of privacy on a catamaran. That being said, you could go down to your cabins and stuff like that. But generally speaking, your cabins on catamarans are pretty small because, your catamaran total width might be 24 feet, but at least half of that or close to half of that is empty space in between the holes, and then you have the holes, right? So generally, the holes on most cats, 45 feet or so, are barely wide enough to fit a queen size bed. Like there's like a little bit of walk around space on the end where they kind of cut the end of the bed narrow so that you can walk up to it and get in it. So, it's not real wide. Whereas this this boat, my aft cabin is the whole width of the boat is 16 feet wide, and so that cabin is huge, right? I can walk around it. I got drawers on either side, windows and stuff like that. So that's the downside to a cat, and it's a trade-off. There is no such thing as a perfect boat. I mean, maybe if you've got enough money, I don't know, but for my price range, there definitely isn't. So, there are pluses and minuses, and we'll see. I've only ever really chartered catamarans or spent maybe a few weeks, 3 or 4 weeks at a time on a cat, and they've never been really my catamaran. So I don't know. I'll have to report back to you on the conditions when I actually get to that boat. I can't really announce the name of the brand or anything like that, catamaran, yet, because they haven't. It's a brand new model, and they haven't released that publicly yet. So once that's released, which should be any day now, I hope, I'll probably do another podcast basically explaining the boat and give you all the information about it and everything. So I'll do that. But so going back to the costs on everything for this boat, I already mentioned, so it's about $4,000 a month in fuel if you add up the generator and everything. So that's pretty expensive. And then but you could stay in a marina sometime, which we do. We stay in a marina. It depends. We're here in St. Martin. We stay in a marina pretty much the whole time. We're doing a lot of work on the boat, stuff like that. But when we're out cruising around, we're in a marina maybe a third of the time, right? So we'll go out on the anchor for a week, and then we'll go spend 3 days in a marina, and then we'll go out for another week or whatever. Marinas aren't expensive. So yeah, that's saving me the $100 a day I'd have to be running my generator, but it's probably costing me $150 a day to be at that marina, so it's an extra $50 on top. And then, sometimes down here, electricity can be really expensive. They might be charging another $30 or $40 a day for electricity, so it's almost double just to stay at a marina. So, if money didn't matter, at all, and like it was, because I'd love to be saving money right now, but I'm not doing a whole lot because of how expensive this is. If you got enough money, motor yacht is a pretty pleasant way to go. It really is, especially something about this size. I don't think I'd go any bigger really than 60, maybe 70 feet for a trawler type boat. Because at that point you really need professional crew to do a lot of the stuff on it. Right now I do everything myself, but I spend a lot of time working on the boat. And that's another thing that maybe there's a lot more work on a motor yacht. So on a sailboat or a smaller motor yacht or something like that, I can do most of the work myself. And I do most of the work myself on this boat. But there are things like, I have these 2 big 700 horsepower Detroit diesel engines. I've never really been an engine guy. I can fix most of the things electrical and plumbing on the boat. I do all that. But when it comes to working on engines, I kind of defer to the professionals a little bit. So, these engines actually do need professional maintenance a lot, probably more often than just your typical Yanmar or what are they, Volvo, or Universal diesel engine for a sailboat, like a 50, 60, 70 horsepower, something like that. And I've had to call a Detroit mechanic a couple times to do a couple things. Like one time I had the starter was going out, and okay, on your typical boat, yeah, sure, just pull the starter off, put a new one on, you're good to go. Well, this starter weighs like 80 pounds and it has to be rebuilt, and all that. So I had to have a guy come and get it out, and then he had to remove a few pieces off the motor to get the starter out and then put it back in and all that. And then we had a leak at our raw water pump. It was just dripping. One of the seals had gone, and so the seal itself, thank God I had a spare. But the seal was like $200, but I had a spare. So, but I still had to pay the $80 an hour for the Detroit mechanic to come out and fix it all. So there's the extra expense with that. So maintaining this boat is definitely more expensive, I think, too, than probably your typical sailboat. So it's just more expensive than I kind of planned. Now, don't get me wrong, I love cruising around on this boat. It's great. Another downside is that when the weather's great and the conditions are perfect, throwing up a sail and turning off all the motors and just going is really a cool feeling. It's just quiet, it's calm, it just feels great. You know what I mean? Whereas on this boat, it does feel cool to do 15, 16 knots, but that for a couple minutes, and then it's loud, and then you're like, oh man, look at that fuel burn. Yeah, So there's pluses and minuses. I know it sounds like I'm talking down a lot about motor yachts, but I think it all just comes back down to money. If money's not an issue for you, then a motor yacht's the way to go. If money is an issue, then a sailboat's probably the way to go. And then another consideration that maybe doesn't have to do with money is your range. So sure, you can get a motor yacht that has thousands of miles of range. You can get a Nordhaven or something like that, or Katie Krogan, or if you want to go up to the big boys or something like that. Those are really expensive. But I want to get back in the South Pacific. When I went through the South Pacific 4 years ago, man, it's already been 4 years. We went really fast. We did the whole South Pacific. We left Mexico in the middle of March, and we made it to Thailand like the first week of September. So 6 months to do not only the South Pacific, but then like through Indonesia and all that up into Southeast Asia. So really fast doing that. And I want to get back into the Pacific and go through all that again, but go at a slower pace. So the problem is this boat really has about a 600, maybe 700 mile range, which for the South Pacific, that's just not going to do it. Maybe if you get this boat shipped to French Polynesia, maybe at that point you can hop between islands. I think, the average island group is 400 or 500 miles across, so you can do it, no problem. But crossing the Pacific Ocean to get that there is 2,700 miles to the Marquesas, and then you got to buy fuel there, which is going to be really expensive getting it there. So it's just, you can't do it in a motor yacht if you want to go around the world. I know people that have. I've met people on a Katie Krogan in Fiji, and they did cross the Pacific. They crossed it I think they were on like a 50-foot Katie Krogan, and they averaged 5.5 knots, and I don't know how long it took them, but they have a really efficient engine for that. I think they were burning like 2 or 3 gallons an hour, and they held like, I don't know, a couple thousand gallons or whatever it was. I honestly don't remember the offhand, but I know they were able to do it. But then again, money wasn't an issue for them because they didn't mind filling up with 3,000 or 4,000 gallons of fuel at a time. So it's a trade-off either way. It always will be a trade-off for you. There is no such thing as a perfect boat. I know I've said it before, but so I guess I've kind of already said the future is that I'm going to go to a catamaran for a while and see how I like that. That'll be next year, and I plan on doing the South Pacific. We'll see how things go with the geopolitical stuff going on right now. I don't know what's going on, but kind of crazy times. But so if you're thinking about getting a yacht, doing something, hopefully that has gave you some good information. Both of them have their pluses and minuses. The downside of a sailboat is that you only go 6 or 7 knots. Okay, you get really nice when you go 7 or 8, maybe 10 sometimes in good conditions, but that's not average. You're probably going to average 6, 7 knots, and so it takes you a lot longer to get places. We've done lots of trips so far that are 80, 90, 100 miles, and doing that in this boat takes 8-9 hours, whereas on a sailboat would have taken, I'm just throwing it out there, 18 hours, something like that, 15 hours. So it's definitely an overnight sail to do a lot of this stuff. Whereas like when we went down to Antigua, I think it was like 80 miles. And so we left at like 7 a.m. or something, and then we were there by 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Whereas if we did it in a sailboat, we would have had to leave probably at midnight or something, and then got there at 3 in the afternoon. So that's the downside of a sailboat. And you're more reliant on the weather for a sailboat, because you have to, unless you really just like beating into the wind, but nobody does that. Nobody likes doing that anyway. So I'm sure there's some crazy people out there who do, but I don't. And so you're at the mercy of the wind and weather a little bit more, waiting for the perfect time to go. Although you still have to wait a little bit here, because on a motor yacht, because you don't want to go out in 25, 30 knots of wind. That's just uncomfortable. And so, but the thing is, like, we have done that on the motor yacht. Okay, we had we had a 12 or no, I think it was 13 miles from St. Bart's to St. Martin. We were heading back this way, and the wind was up a little bit. It was like, it's not going to be super comfortable, but it's only an hour, right? We're like, all right, we're just going to do 14 knots the whole way, and it's going to take us an hour to get there. I'm going to burn a little bit more fuel, but at least we'll be through it and we'll be comfortable. Whereas on a sailboat, that would have taken 2.5 hours maybe, because you're in rough conditions. You're probably not going to be able to average 7 knots. And so, there's the benefits either way. So I would say if you just like peace and quiet and calm, well, that's not necessarily true. It can be pretty rough and crazy sometimes under sail. But if you like to be able to do that, a sailboat's the way to go. If you want more comfort and speed and to get there now, a motor yacht's the way to go. I will say a motor yacht is more comfortable than a sailboat. Absolutely, you get more space. You get more variety of space. You get more household type stuff, which is really nice. You can pretend you're not in a boat for a while. So there you go. I hope that answered some of your questions on what life is like on a motor yacht. Please click the subscribe button if you're not already. You can go to sailingdoodles.com. We have our merch there and see our koozies there. And then also our sailing school, which I'm happy to announce is up and running. So we got 6 hours of video instruction and teaching you how to sail. And of course, it's our patrons that make this channel possible. Thank you so much, guys. They get early access to both this video and plenty of other videos. They get extended scenes, and then of course we do patron-only videos for them as well. So kind of special updates and everything. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next podcast.